Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom and Fertility. You have your two dietitian besties, best friends with each other, best friends with you. Pull up your chair, a cup of tea, or maybe you're chopping vegetables while you're making dinner. Wherever you are listening, we're so glad you've tuned in today. We are speaking with a doctor, an author, infertility pioneer, survivor. Why I said pioneer was, I don't know. Well, maybe both pioneer and survivor. Dr. Ann Shippy. She is the author of a book that, as we're recording this, is coming out in 11 days, but you'll get this probably 2 or 3 weeks after it has come out, The Preconception Revolution. And when we were pitched her book with a big old sperm on the front of it, we had to say, let's talk about male fertility. So Dr. Ann, we're so glad to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, after reading the foreword in your book, I feel that we have to give the listeners a little bit of a chance to understand your background with fertility and how you joined medicine, because I feel like it will help them see why this topic is of such great importance to you.
Oh, thank you for letting me share that story. Where would you like me to start? Just the transition into medicine?
Yeah, I think that's a good, what led to that maybe?
Yeah. So I was on the fast track at IBM as a chemical engineer, running departments of men doing really great things in manufacturing. So I was loving what I was getting to do because I was actually getting to work on things like getting chlorofluorocarbons out of our environment, our cleaning environment. So I had this really great people helping me. But I got really sick after going on vacation, and so sick to the point that the people working with me thought I had cancer or something. I really looked like I was dying, and I felt like I was dying. And I had gone from doctor to doctor to doctor, tried so many different things and wasn't getting answers other than Band-Aids that didn't really work. And so then I had to take it on myself, which I think a lot of people feel like they have to do with the medical model.
Yeah, our
today.
audience is right there with you.
Yeah. And so I just started reading every book I could find. It was really before the internet. So I tried different diets. I went to a nutritionist that really helped me, an acupuncturist, a way outside the box thinking immunologist, and finally got my body back. I figured out that I had undiagnosed celiac that they had just missed, and my microbiome was a mess, all the things that are much easier to diagnose today. But I got so fascinated. With engineering, you love to solve problems, collect data, really learn about things. And so I got so fascinated about the human body, how people could go from, being so sick like I was to being healthy and vibrant again. And I really wanted to have the MD as a background so that I had that foundation so that then I could do medicine differently and really help people to heal. Little did I know, I had gone through some infertility issues before I went to medical school at 32. So I was I wasn't really thinking clearly, like, am I going to actually get to have a family, or is that just going to be out of the cards for me? Because, once you start medical school, that's so busy, you could hardly have any time to think about anything else. But I got really fortunate, and I got pregnant without doing anything. I had done the IUIs and I had done Clomid, and nothing had worked before I went to med school. But then I think in a way in medical school, I started taking care of my body even a little bit differently. And that probably just helped me to get pregnant. But then when I went to get pregnant again, a couple years later during residency, when I I wasn't getting pregnant, I kind of felt like I was having these early miscarriages. I'd feel like the changes that you feel like when you get pregnant, but then a few days later it would be gone and my period would start. So I went to see an infertility specialist, a new one this time. They looked at all my labs and they basically said, there's no way, like you're 38, you're, past your prime, you're already geriatric. And there's no way you can get
Yeah, that's
pregnant.
really weird that a 38-year-old would be pregnant.
Sophia, the 38-year-old, is showing her belly right
Shoving
now.
my belly in the camera.
Oh, thanks to
The
you.
audacity,
Congratulations.
the
Yes, I know.
risk, the elderly nature of the human body at such an age.
I want that removed from the medical vocabulary. It is offensive. Yeah, when you look at human health, if like women were alive and they were healthy, they were having babies into their 40s. Like it's
Absolutely.
we just need to
Yeah,
change
it doesn't
this
account
mindset.
for, on this podcast, basically what we believe is that most of the diseases that impact fertility are progressive. And so that's the reason why you could get pregnant easily at 22 and it's not so easy at 38, is that you probably have a disease that's been progressing all your life. And like PCOS, progressive if untreated. Endometriosis, progressive if untreated. There's microbiome issues in the uterus, progressive if untreated. And so really what it comes down to is you just have things that have probably been going on for a really long time that are just now causing problems. And that's also kind of what we believe about perimenopause, is like, all of a sudden your body just craps out on you. No, it's that there's been things going on all along and now your body can't cope. We don't accept the geriatric pregnancy.
We're so aligned. This is so fun to have this conversation with you.
I think the other piece of that too is that while it is progressive in nature, if we aren't actually uncovering what's going on underneath the cover of the hood of the car, right? Like how do you know what it actually is? And that's kind of what I want to ask you, Anne, is like, can you go back in your mind to the lab work at all and say, why did he think it was so bad? What was it that was so bad?
I think it was a lot. I think that that point in time they used the AMH a little bit more as an indicator, and then I was actually. This is not the ideal time to have a baby. I was in residency, so some months I was covering the ICU, and I was up all night every third night for like 36 hours, or covering the wards or the emergency room for all night for every fourth. So and not having the time to really eat well and take care of myself. So I don't even think that the labs were a very good indication, because I ended up getting pregnant while I was waiting to start on the pill to do the IVF. Like I was so desperate for my son to have a sibling that I was willing to do whatever it took, like interrupt my my residency or whatever needed to happen, because I just felt like, my siblings are so important to me that he needed to have a sibling. I was more distraught about not having, or thinking about not having a second child, than I even was about not having the first. So it's kind of what it shows me is that the body can be just so remarkable. Like even when things look really dire, things can shift so quickly. Like just probably changing my rotation, where I was actually able to prioritize sleep, get some exercise, eat right, take my multivitamins. I didn't do a whole lot for my health compared to what I do now, what I know to do now. But I think though even those little shifts took a body that was really not hospitable to carrying a baby to very quickly being welcoming to this precious soul. And that's really the hope that I want people to feel when they read my book and when we have these conversations, is even if it's looked pretty desolate, right now I have my oldest patient, she's 47. And so she did the things that we figured out she needed to do for a little over 3 months, and then got pregnant on the first try. She's 5 months in right now. So we still have to, get to the delivering a healthy baby. But within months, once we really look at what's going on, some of the lifestyle things in my clinic, I love to do a lot of data, and I talk testing that aren't traditionally available and part of that picture of looking for about fertility and health, but generally answers like what is the body letting us know when it's not getting pregnant that it really needs, and we can figure it out.
So you went on to finish your MD and then did additional training in functional medicine. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was an interesting part of my story too, where I I was finishing residency with a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I was really tired. So, and there was no clear path. Functional medicine wasn't on the map at that point in time. So I went into a traditional internal medicine practice where I was enjoying what I was doing because I was getting to take care of patients, but I would know like within 5 minutes, like what meds I were going to prescribe. It was very quick. You're in and out in 10 or 15 minutes. And I had to see 20 patients in a day to be able to cover my overhead. And so fortunately, I got sick again. I developed a couple of autoimmune diseases, one that probably was undiagnosed as far as maybe sometimes why I went in and out of having infertility. And that's I had antiphospholipid antibodies, so increased risk for clotting. And then I also had Sjogren's syndrome, where my eyes were so dry that I couldn't wear my contacts anymore.
Worst. People don't realize dry eye is the like life altering, like so painful. You think, oh well, what is it? Of all the autoimmune diseases, you see people with all kinds of things. Sjogren's gets sort of the short end of the stick, but dry eye, my guy, let me tell you, that hurts.
It's really hard. And then I couldn't really have a conversation if I didn't have some gum or a mint or something in my mouth to get the saliva, a little bit of saliva going. And so that was perfect because it helped me to find functional medicine. It was just barely on the map a little over 20 years ago. And so I started to do that training. I found a doctor that was about an hour from me that had been doing some functional medicine, and I figured out how to reverse my autoimmune diseases. So
Where were you geographically?
Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, yep, I don't need gum to have conversations anymore. All my autoimmune markers are totally gone. So again, my body taught me about how amazing, like you can reverse autoimmunity and feel great again. So that got me the confidence to go start doing functional medicine. I was one of the first people in the country doing functional medicine, um, and learning as I went. I opened my doors, and these seeds for this book actually happened with some of my earliest patients. I was just doing it for a couple of years, and one patient had heard about me. I was helping people, and she was 41 and she had finally met the love of her life, wanted to have a baby. And she's like, I feel like I need to come see you to get my body tuned up to be ready to be fertile and have a baby. She hadn't dealt with infertility. She just knew she needed to do some preparation. And so we worked together for a few months, and then she went on to have a very healthy baby.
That's awesome.
Oh.
We were talking earlier about the progressiveness of these things. And I think one thing we're seeing more and more of, probably since the start of your days in medicine, Dr. Ann, that we've covered up fertility for so long with medications that don't help us see the smoking gun, right? Like, and this isn't like, let's shit on birth control episode or anything like that. But if you don't know that something is progressing, how would you know to stop it? And I think that is something that we, in this kind of preconception period, if you're listening to this or friends that are just starting to plan their wedding a year or two out, like this is the time. This is the time to consider taking those things off that silent symptoms so that we can address things, so that you can be in a position when you try, it's not as hard. But one piece that I want to kind of shift to is we talk about this a lot on this podcast, the idea of female health and female fertility smoke and gun, right? Like, what about the male side? What things should be a huge early indicator that there's things to optimize here? Because not just everybody for fun is going and getting semen analyses. It's not like,
Or they do get a semen analysis and it just is like, oh, this is fine. And that's all they get.
I personally think this conversation we're about to have is one of the most exciting conversations in health today. And most men, I know, hopefully the women listening will be able to get their significant others to listen to this conversation because it's so important for them. Men's eyes light up. So I want to just even change the conversation about the male role in creating a healthy baby. So because we have this new field of epigenetics, so how genes are being dialed up and dialed down,
based on
so
your
much
environment or other factors. So like the genes being turned on or turned off essentially is a way to think about it based on what's going on around them.
So men get to be much more involved in this whole creating a baby than just putting in a sperm. They get to actually think about it as a time capsule. So everything that's going on in a man's environment leading up to this point is basically in that time capsule through epigenetics with the sperm. So how stressed they are, how many toxins they have built up in their bodies, whether they're exercising, what their blood sugar is, what their nutrient levels are, how inflamed they are, and many other things, maybe even childhood traumas, are getting into that time capsule and being passed on, and then can influence the health of the pregnancy, like the risk for preeclampsia, how healthy the placenta is, and then the future health of the child is, and maybe even how fertile they are. And a lot of these health factors that we don't want for our children, like we should all be really alarmed right now about even having a family from the standpoint of what's happening with autism, the 1 in 31 kids, the mental health, the diabetes, the autoimmunity. But what's really exciting is that by the man and the woman both really using this preconception period at least 3 months before. But like you said, if somebody knows they want to start a family in 2 years, please start now. That having that period to really optimize their bodies can really impact the health of their future child. And I think it's one of the most important things about helping to get these directions of this children's health crisis going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. We have a close colleague called the prenatal, what is she? The prenatal nutritionist on Instagram.
You talking about Ryan?
Ryan, yeah.
Yeah.
She's just starting to post about quote unquote training to be pregnant, and that she spent the last few years training to be pregnant. And I just love that kind of reframe where it's like, we train for marathons. We train for standardized testing. Like we do practice tests. We do, you've spent time preparing in a very methodical way for a number of things in your past. Maybe it was prepping to get into the right internship for Sophia and I, or prepping for getting into your wedding dress, like whatever it is that you felt like you needed to really work really hard for. And one thing that Sophia has brought up time and again on this podcast, and I love the way she's reframed it, is having a baby on purpose. Like it's really frustrating when everyone around you falls pregnant so easily. And it's really frustrating when you thought it would be so easy. You tried to prevent it so long, and now joke's on you. You're trying to conceive and you're a couple of years into it because it hasn't been easy for you. But there is a silver lining in this piece of it where having the opportunity to work on things that could impact the health of your baby, the health of your pregnancy, you and your partner's health as you raise your family over the next 30, 50 years however long that is for you, this is actually, I don't want to call it a gift, but you can take this hard and make it a gift, both to yourself and to your children. And being in this period of having a baby on purpose and trying and training, it has its upsides.
I really think that um, it it is the body saying, "Hey, wait, there's something not right here," as far as having a healthy, child for the long run. So, it is hard to think about it that way when you're going through it. But if you can just switch that lens a little bit and get curious about what's going on in your body, that it's not ready to have a baby right now, and and take a little break. Like I when people come see me with the infertility piece or the planning piece, I ask them to actually use condoms or diaphragms or something barrier for a few months, because um, to really complete the process of getting things where you want them to be, especially when people are doing labs and seeing where their toxin levels are and their microbiome levels are and that kind of thing. It's a little, I noticed such an uptick in people's fertility that the methods that they've used don't work anymore. And so it ends up being stressful if people are like, oh, wait, I didn't get my mercury down or get rid of my toxic mold, or I still have a fungal infection or something going on. So the body, once it starts to get into better balance, gets much more fertile than it has been. So if we can just like take a little break, get things dialed in, and then resume once we have things optimized, it's a much, much better experience.
Hey, Food Freedom Fertility listeners, we're taking a break from this episode to talk about our sponsor, Temp Drop. One of the reasons why Sophia and I love this brand so much is that it's an all-in-one solution and it's so easy to use. You wear this Temp Drop sensor on your upper arm during your sleep, and then in the morning when it's convenient for you, you sync it to their charting app. If you've been tracking your fertile signs for a while now, you'll know that this means freedom. And isn't this the Food Freedom Fertility podcast? In order to accurately track your basal body temperature, you need to wake up at the same time every morning. But what if you're a shift worker or your schedule differs and sometimes you sleep in and sometimes you don't? That's one of the reasons why I love this tech so much. TempDrop uses the latest scientific knowledge to bring you an accurate method of cycle tracking and identifying your fertile window. TempDrop sensor continuously monitors your basal body temperature while you're sleeping. And then in the morning, you open the app on your phone and you sync the data. And what that means is that it's not transmitting information from this sensor next to your arm to your phone all night long. And I don't know about you, that gives me a lot of peace of mind that I'm not exposing myself to radiation all the hours that I'm sleeping. Because this tech makes tracking your temperature so much more accessible and really takes a lot of the brain power out of it. You don't even need to charge it every day. This is one of the reasons why I personally use TempDrop to track my own basal body temperature. Make sure when you go to tempdrop.com that you use our discount code exclusive to our Food Freedom Fertility listeners. That code is FFF15, or you can head to the link in our show notes of all these episodes. Click on that link and you'll get 15% off today.
We are taking a break from the episode, and I want to chat with you a little bit about Fertility Cloud. If you've been told you need help ovulating, or you have PCOS and you're trying to figure out your next fertility step, I want to tell you about Fertility Cloud. They make fertility care simple, transparent, and affordable, especially when it comes to ovulation stimulation and ovulation induction treatments. Instead of waiting for months to see a fertility specialist or getting hit with surprise bills, Fertility Cloud lists every price clearly right on their website. You'll see exactly what you're getting into and exactly what it costs. No hidden clinic fees, no surprise invoices later. For my PCOS clients, this is huge. Their ovulation stimulation program can help jumpstart ovulation safely at home with physician guidance and medications delivered directly to you. You can do it all virtually, no driving to clinics or sitting in waiting rooms, and you can often even get appointments same day. If you're wondering, how do we do ultrasounds or what about lab draws? Don't worry, their concierge service helps determine where you can do that locally to you and coordinates with you on your behalf. It's just amazing. And here's the best part. If you're ready to take that next step, you can click the link in our show notes and get $50 off your first appointment. That means you get right in front of a fertility specialist for $115. That first visit gets you matched with a fertility doctor who actually understands your needs, and you'll walk away with a clear plan for your next cycle. So head to the link in our show notes, book your appointment, save $50 on your first Fertility Cloud visit, because fertility care should be transparent, affordable, and built for you. So men don't have menstrual cycles, and unless they've been intentional, they haven't had maybe a semen analysis. What else would be an indicator to a man beyond just everyone should be improving their health preconception and be curious about things? What would be something that would point them towards we need to dig deeper, and where should they be digging deeper?
Yes. So for just men in general, like to really have this period where they're protecting their body is so important. Certainly, if they do have some symptoms, if they're feeling more tired, if they're having headaches, if they're not gaining weight or muscle the way that they have in the past, if they have any digestive symptoms, just pretty much any symptom in the body can be a sign. So I really do love to test. I like to look at what their toxin levels are. Like to look to see how their microbiome is, because that actually is super important for some of these epigenetic factors. I like to make sure that they have that they also are really well nourished, just like we'd want the mom to be. I like them to know what's going on with their blood sugar. So I really like for them to wear a continuous glucose monitor for at least 2 weeks, so that they can make sure that they're not in that pre-diabetic range. That sometimes doesn't, show up very well on the labs. And then this whole weight conversation is really interesting, because definitely the father's weight can have an impact on how the metabolism of the child looks. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just be mindful of where your weight is. And definitely if you've ever had, if you've ever smoked or done very much THC or any other substances, you definitely want to give yourself a detox period. But most people have had some level of toxic exposure that they don't realize when we do the lab. So either, eating takeout food regularly, or drinking out of aluminum cans regularly, just these things that we don't even think about in our day-to-day life a lot because it's just part of our lifestyle, are adding toxins to their bodies. I just covered a lot there.
You did, for sure. I was actually scrolling through some of the texts that you have in your book, and one thing that jumped out at me is, we talk about some of these more functional medicine tests. We talk about mold testing. We talk about hair mineral analysis. We talk about, like I would say not tier 1 level testing. What would you consider like an out the gate before I maybe move on to work with a functional medicine doctor, but I want to get the most out of my time, maybe with like my primary care doctor, or maybe even before going and doing a thorough fertility workup, because that's what the OBGYN is recommending. Like, what would you say is a good baseline testing?
Good baseline. Yeah, there's a really thorough list in the book of labs that any doctor can order. So it's really detailed hormone numbers, like really looking at how the thyroid is, looking at blood sugar really well, looking at testosterone and some of the androgens. Even an AMH in a man is very interesting. So I love to get a really thorough baseline of where we're starting from, and then dial in the food plan, the supplement plan, the detox plan, and then see how things shift afterwards. There are kind of two different things that I wanted to directions to go into here. One is that there's a sperm test that's really exciting. It's called Sperm QT. They, in addition to the traditional sperm measurements where they're looking at count, concentration, motility, and morphology, where there are any abnormal physical characteristics, they can also look at epigenetics of the sperm. And they've just gone direct to consumer with it. So men can actually order the test on themselves. So it's a really, like, to be able to get a sperm test without having to show up in the lab with a cup. You can just put it in the mail. I think it's a lot easier for men to get engaged in actually checking their sperm. And what's really fun is to see, 2, 3, 4 months of effort of really taking care of themselves and seeing those epigenetic changes improve, and the count and the morphology. It's seeing, having some data around seeing that all this effort of not drinking the alcohol and getting the exercise and all these things actually make a change there. And it makes so much sense, right? Like, the healthier your sperm are, it's the healthier your body's going to be too. So it's just all these things that we can see some measurements around are so motivating to find out what really moves the needle with our health.
So this is a direct-to-consumer product that people can use. I realize you're not selling this here, but it's called Sperm QT. That's interesting. I find a lot of barriers in men's fertility come from the fact that in a lot of the clients I work with, he's the primary earner. He is the one that's working extra hours, picking up extra shifts, doing side jobs in order to afford the cost of working with Caitlin or I and every other kind of treatment and the new supplement routine and the organic groceries. And, in order for her to take a big step back at work so that she can de-stress and focus on getting pregnant. And in reality, honestly, she didn't even really want to continue working after she got pregnant anyway. So that's always sort of been in their plan. What is I don't know, what is your words of wisdom for the hardworking man who is trying to hold it all together for the household as they're trying to grow their family? Maybe the guy whose job is inherently chemically dense. I'm married to somebody in the military who's always flame retardant materials, food that's packaged to survive a mission to Mars. And then the guys that are painting houses, roofing, carpeting, fixing cars. What is your words of wisdom to this guy who's working very hard and is not against changing his health, but there's some very non-modifiable things that are making it possible for the family to function?
Yeah, that's the I think focus on the things that you can change, right? So the things that you can change are helping your body to detoxify, knowing which supplements to take, like liposomal glutathione and some binders and liver support, and then cutting out the toxins that you can. So, like having a HEPA filter going on in your room at night, so that at least you're getting clean air during that time. Trying to not eat out of packaging, getting the fresh food and organic food as much as you can, but I think it's just a shift in priorities. And a lot of times these things can just become part of your lifestyle. And then I think the masculine wisdom, when they have the information, when they have the data that they can make the trade-offs, they make the best decisions that they can at the time. I have so much confidence in that. And so, some of these professions really are very, very toxic. The construction industry. So the thing that I think happens sometimes in industries like that, and I just had a really strong conversation with some of the mold inspectors that I use or recommend to patients to wear the protection. Like, I think sometimes with the 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 masculine, they don't want to have to.
Well, I think a lot of I can speak from my husband's own experience. The person who designed this protective gear has never actually worked this job a day in their life, and they don't know how
Right.
horribly impractical this is. And this is like an issue constantly in his job is like, you have to wear these safety glasses. Like, if you're not wearing these safety glasses and something happens to you, your life insurance is voided. Your widow will receive nothing because you didn't put these on. And you put them on and they're fully fogged within 90 seconds. And you're like, wow, I'm really glad that I have to make this shot at 10,000 meters or whatever. I don't even know if that's practical. I have no idea how far sniper shots go in the world. This is not, that's his job, not mine. But you know what I mean? Like, if only I could use my vision, the one tool I must have. There's just a lot of things. Yeah, the safety gear is often extremely impractical for the people who are being charged to use it.
And during this preconception period, the 3, 6, 9 months, right before you're wanting to start trying, just suck it up. Like, do everything possible so that you don't have the toxins in your body that are going to epigenetically impact the baby, and do the things that you can do. Like,
Yeah.
compared to, like, I've got to go to work and provide for my family. This is not a great example, but like for me, I, um, really try to live as much of a non-toxic life as I can, but I still color my hair. So like, there's this incongruence, right? But if I was planning on getting pregnant in the next 3 to 6 months, I wouldn't color my hair. I wouldn't put on the nail polish. So it's taking the things that we can do, and then definitely understanding our detox pathways enough so that the things that we can't control, like, it sounds like your husband, really likes his work. It's what he wants to be doing. And
Well,
so,
I'm just using him as an example because he's the closest one to me. We thankfully haven't had sperm issues. But it just brings to mind a lot of the barriers that I see men having in his line of work when, let's say, sperm health really is a factor. What is this dude supposed to do about it when this is his life? And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so if I don't do this job, it means that the other guy has to do double of this because this is what has to get done. And just, this mindset, I see a lot of this when you were talking about the symptoms that men have. In my mind, I was almost like scoffing, like, people talk about like, oh, he has like a man cold, or like he gets like the smallest little flu and like acts like the world is ending. But I don't deny that that happens in this world, but I see so much of the opposite where it's like this guy had like some extreme sickness and was like up framing a roof that same day because this has to get done before winter comes because nobody else can do this, or whatever. I more see the guys like, if he's having headaches or digestive problems, I'm like, I don't even know that they would notice. Like,
well,
they're
and,
like
and it
just
does happen
head
a lot of
down
times. They
working
don't
to get it done.
notice
Like,
until
drink a
they're really in trouble.
Monster, take an Imodium, and get back out there.
Right. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's when I end up seeing them, is when they've just pushed through so much that then they have something more serious going on. Yeah.
I know it's the same thing that, like, this is a total tangent, you guys, but it's like those people that get diagnosed with some crazy illness. They have like an aortic dissection or something, or like some crazy cancer that's like blasted through their body. And they're like, I never get sick. But he's so healthy, he never gets sick. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't think that's like the flex that you think it is. And like the fact that he's, quote, never sick. And now suddenly the one thing that happens is like bringing him to the ICU immediately. I don't know that I don't know that we're really talking about someone that's, quote, so healthy. I think that actually there's been some major issues. It's not normal to not have like a sniffle or maybe a, urgent trip to the bathroom every so often as a human being living in a world of microbes.
My naturopath always used to tell me, like, because I'm one of those people that doesn't get sick as often as those around me. And I remember after having Fiona, I just didn't get sick. Everybody got all these colds, all these things. And I was going into postpartum with Bonnie, and we were talking about like planning for sleep and postpartum stuff. And she's like, "When was the last time you got sick?" I was like, "I don't know, like 3 years ago." And she's like, "That's not good, Caitlin." And I remember being like, "What? That's not good? Like my immune system's
Yes.
rocking." She's like, "Actually, I wonder if it is."
I think it's great. I think I think you do end up getting sick every once in a while, but then and it's like a little bit of an immune reset. But to me, that's just saying your immune system's strong, it's doing great, and it doesn't need the reset. It's really positive.
Or you're just too weak to even mount an immune response.
But honestly, I mean, the
That's the
other
fear
side of
that I
that then
have.
is, so then what happens? Like the thing takes over and you get really sick or you die. Stop it.
You just become a germ.
Stop it.
It's like the movie The Fly with
Okay,
Jeff
Dr.
Goldblum.
Shippy. Talk to
Typhoid
me
Mary, you're just
about
giving it to
the
everybody.
things that you are commonly seeing in male partners that are coming up. Like what are the trends showing up in your office lately?
Yeah. So I have two groups of patients. There's the people that are just in to do optimization. They're just like, okay, we're going to start our family or grow our family and let's just optimize things. And they're usually people that are pretty motivated to at least do some testing and see what's going on to optimize things. The other group of people are the people that are having the problems, like their sperm count's not good and they know that there's a problem and they want to improve it. So there is this interesting pattern that I'm seeing, especially with the lower sperm counts or the infertility issues, and that is exposure to toxic mold. So that's been super, super interesting, seeing increased miscarriages with exposure to it, and then also lower sperm count. The exciting thing is that is something that really can be addressed. It's such a pain, but finding where the toxic mold source is, usually in the home, but sometimes in the office, car, other places.
Car, right?
Yes.
I think that all the time. Moldy cars.
Yes. It's not that uncommon either. Depends on how much time you spend in your car as to how much problem it is. But what's exciting is that then when we deal with it, we can go from a pretty much zero sperm count to, when people needing
Robust.
IVF to even get pregnant or IVF not working to having babies naturally in their 40s. So by addressing some of these issues, there's a lot of miracles that can happen. So
Okay,
it's
so
really fun.
what are the issues that you just said, addressing some of these issues? Our listeners, if they're dudes, are like, yeah, what do I do? Tell me the action steps.
So kind of on the mold topic, if you suspect you have mold, then definitely pop on that. Like if you've had a leak in your house.
What do you do if you suspect you have mold?
Find a really good inspector that's going to confirm or deny whether there's a problem there. But if you've had a humidity issue, if you've had a leak, a bathroom, toilet overflow or bathtub overflow or windows leak, roof leak, those kinds of things, it's highly likely that there's mold in the walls, depending on where you live. If it's a dry climate, you can even still have mold, hidden mold. If you're in places like Austin, Texas, or Houston, where there's high humidity, you definitely have problems. So finding the best people in your area, and there's on my website, anshippymd.com/mold, there's a ton of resources on how to test, and what to do in that process.
And you said dealing with mold is a headache. Let's talk about maybe not the home itself, but what about like big picture approaches in the body?
What do you do in your body?
Yeah. So then if you've had an exposure to mold or other toxins, like if you lived on tuna fish for years, or drinking a lot out of plastic water bottles, or eating out of using the Teflon pans, or as we're learning how important all of these kinds of things are for fertility, we want to really help the body to detoxify. So there's a few things that I really like for people to do in this preconception period to help them to detoxify. And they're probably things that you guys are already familiar with. So things like the liposomal glutathione. I love the binders like the charcoal, clay, pectosol combinations, and then supporting the liver with milk thistle, alpha lipoic acid, and those kinds of things. And then also this whole thing around fertility and helping the body get detoxified, supporting the mitochondria, the little organelles inside the body that make energy, are super important for the body to then be able to eliminate the toxins. So things like CoQ10, carnitine, D-ribose, NAD, combinations of things can really help the body then exit out of them, and then helping to repair the mitochondrial membranes and cell membranes with something called phosphatidylcholine. So, we know that a high percentage of people in the U.S. are choline deficient, and so we all need to be eating more choline, but this form of phosphatidylcholine really helps the body to heal more quickly than other forms of choline. So there's a lot of information about the choline in the book, but I think both men and women in this preconception period really benefit from taking the phosphatidylcholine.
So hearing some of these things brings me to a question that I think a lot of people run into. I think there's two kind of, there's a tension here. One side says test, don't guess, and treat the individual. The other side says if we're going to do some of these things anyway, like if it's not going to change our intervention, why spend so much money on some of these functional testings? And I think Sophia and I have both seen a trend in our own individual practices where we used to let's do this test and that test and this test because it can help direct things. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're spending thousands of dollars in functional medicine, really expensive testing, only to give phosphatidylcholine anyway, right? So where do you find an in between those tensions where it makes sense for people?
Yeah. That you actually have just nailed this dilemma that I've had even with this whole book coming out, right? Because there's this ideal, right, where everybody has $3,000 to $5,000 worth of testing before they get pregnant. I mean, that would be ideal. Wouldn't it be great if insurance would actually cover that, right? If all the prevention that would happen from being able to really dial in for each individual person would be incredible. But I felt like I really had to write this book because most don't have access to that. And by doing these things that I just talked about for 3, 6, 12 months, you're going to dramatically move the needle anyway. Right. So there's this, precision part of me, the chemical engineer that
data, give me the
everything
data. I want the data.
Just perfectly dialed in. And then there's progress. So what I don't want people to do is feel defeated because they're not going to go spend the 3, 5, 10, you can even spend $10,000 if you do all the genetic testing, right? Feel defeated because they're, that's not the priority for them. I want people to really know they can significantly change their fertility, the health of their child by both the husband and the wife, or man and the woman, really, really doing whichever of these things that resonates most with them.
We're going to take a break from this episode to hear about one of our sponsors.
You've probably heard me say this before, but preparing your body for pregnancy is not just about you. It's about both of you. Fertility is truly a team effort, and that's why I love the Fullwell Fertility Trio for Two. Fullwell was founded by a fellow registered dietitian and fertility expert, Ayla Barmer, and this bundle was designed to support both partners in the months leading up to conception. It combines their top-rated prenatal vitamin, omega-3 fish oil, and a fertility booster supplement that covers things like CoQ10, N-acetylcysteine, alpha lipoic acid, and organic ashwagandha root extract. The nutrients here support overall egg quality, sperm health, fertility, and even your stress resilience. If your partner's semen analysis looks normal, or if it's suboptimal and we need to improve things, nutrition plays a key role for things like sperm motility, count, and DNA quality. For women, these same nutrients help with ovulation, egg development, and healthy hormone balance, not to mention mitochondrial support, which is a huge piece of how your gametes mature and get ready to be that queen egg or that king sperm that make it to combining to form an embryo. These things are foundational for a strong, healthy pregnancy. I personally love that Fullwell's formulas are third-party tested, they're evidence-based, and made with doses that actually match what the research shows we need. No fluff, no underdosing. So if you're planning to start trying this winter or sometime in 2026, or you've been trying to conceive for a while, it's time to think about starting to nourish your bodies for what's ahead, or take a step up from your current protocol to one that is high quality. Head to fullwellfertility.com and use the code FFF20 for 20% off your order. That's FFF20 at checkout. I'll drop the link in the show notes for this specific fertility trio bundle and for Fullwell, along with this code FFF20. Give yourself and your future family the best foundation with Fullwell's Fertility Trio for Two. And obvious things, right? Like you saw black mold in your bathroom and you can't conceive, and you've looked at a number of other things. Maybe that's something that we address before we're looking at, this other random thing that sounds cool to me. I mean, I think there's moments where you're like, okay, just use like second grade logic and deal with the problem in the room. My daughter knows that much, right?
Well, this mold thing is really it's a sensitive topic for me personally right now because I had a couple that I worked with that they were willing to do everything I asked them to do except for get rid of the mold. They just, they tested for it, but then they were like, "Oh, we think it was in this location, not in the house that we're going to have the baby in, so we're going to just ignore it." And then they ended.
And that is legit in my brain as well. Like I'm a natural skeptic, I want to say. And I'm like, of all these mold assessors, how many times have they gone to someone's house and been like, nope, no mold here, looking good? Like, I feel like never have they ever. Every single house they're going to find mold in. And
Well, it actually
that's what gets me kind of spinning and thinking, is this even,
in
what
Texas,
are
it's
we
kind of the
doing here?
opposite. We're the technology updates in actually detecting the mold haven't been gotten implemented very well. So it's more common for people to hire an inspector and they don't find it and miss it, you know. But what happened with this couple is they got pregnant right away. They got pregnant on the first try, but then they miscarried. And then they were willing to look at the mold. It was so painful, it's just like, could I have done things differently?
Pregnancy loss is so horrible. And you do end up with, it's one of those things that is not so easily explained.
Mhm.
Like we don't, unless you maybe had a D&C where the doctor like scooped out the baby and then sent it to a lab where there was like a full genome mapped out and we could see clearly, well, this baby had trisomy 18 and we never could have grown, or, something like, unless we have like a very clear path as to exactly why this happened, families are left trying to find meaning, trying to find someone to blame, trying to find an explanation, and grasping at whatever hunch or intuition or superstition or religion or whatever they have, because they're not, it's the same thing goes. I mean, death is one of those things. It's so unexplainable a lot of times, and it's so deeply painful that people are left, wondering could have what could have been and what they did to make this happen.
So at this point, I feel optimistic for this particular couple. They they did go take a and they found a ton of mold in their house. Like, it was really bad.
Ugh.
And so we're all three of us are really looking at this. Oh, this is actually a blessing, because it would not have been good to bring a baby home to this house. So they've actually moved now.
I don't know.
It's just, one of my friends lived in a mold house, and we were like, okay, you can't keep all your stuff, man. Like, this couch is moldy, your bed is moldy, your clothes are moldy. Like, some of this can be cleaned, but how are we going to clean your moldy mattress? We can't do that. You have to throw it away. It just seems like I'm going to have to gut my whole house, get rid of all my everything. It's easy to be like, I don't even want to go there.
It's
What else can we
very-
work
No,
on?
it's just
besides mold?
really
Very
overwhelming.
challenging.
It's, all of that in
Yeah,
the face of
extremely.
cost and moving and contractors but I've had similar experiences with clients where they've had testing, mold has been confirmed, but then it's like, it's not, the, like, we saw this with a mutual friend, Sophia, where they did testing and then they found out it wasn't as widespread as they initially thought in the home. And, so I think sometimes there is that healthy level of skepticism. There's a part of me that's like, oh, it's trendy right now to be dealing with mold. But I think the trends also dictate what people are looking for. And then you find it and you're like, oh, that's why my child has asthma. Address the mold, the asthma went away. Right. And so, sometimes hindsight is 2020, and then sometimes hindsight's like, well, but it's all these things, and there are buckets, and mold is a piece of the stress on the body's bucket, and removing that one big stress maybe made everything work a little bit better.
Well, and
Yeah.
the data that's coming forward on sperm, there's some really interesting studies that have come out in the last year. So there's one that they did in Salt Lake City where they looked at sperm counts and quality and all the things when the air was clean, and then when they had the inversion, and there's a dramatic decline in sperm count and health when there's air pollution.
So an inversion,
So
guys, is like when you're in a valley or an area where there's a difference in pressures, I think. Usually it feels like a cold, and the cold is trapped and the air quality doesn't really get changed. And so you're kind of trapped in this bubble of pollution. That's what she's talking about when she's talking about inversion.
Yeah, Valley is, that happened when
Yeah,
I
me
lived in
too.
Boise. They'd get inversions
They
a lot. Basically,
sucked.
like, clouds would blow
And
in,
then you'd just be
and then
stuck.
the winds wouldn't be strong enough to blow everything back out, and so the clouds basically work as like a
Yeah.
lid
And all the pollution
on
just
top of
sits
all the
there.
cars and fires burning and industrial everything
And it
happening.
usually
It's all just
happens in
happening
winter when all that stuff's going on.
So I
when
think
the
it's
air's
really
cold. Exactly.
amazing to know that, right? So we can try to have the cleanest air as much of the time that we can. So if you live in a place that has some air pollution, which is almost everywhere now, have the air filters to get the cleanest air that you can. There was also a study that came out that, honestly, I would have thought, if I'd read the study plan, I would have thought this is going to not be good enough to show anything. But they took men, and in one group they fed them highly processed food for 3 weeks, and then the other group ate healthy, whole foods, not packaged processed, and did the hormone levels and sperm counts, and then they flip-flopped them, and had the people eating basically the packaged food over to the healthy food for 3 weeks. in 3 weeks' time of eating healthy, you can dramatically improve sperm quality and shift some of the hormones to a positive way. So, on the one hand, with the air pollution, we've got this like, oh my gosh, this, how are we going to keep our sperm healthy with this, increasing sperm decline? And then see such a positive study where eating healthy and avoiding the chemicals that are in the processed foods can make such a dramatic difference so quickly. So I think that gives some hope.
And it's not just about decreasing the toxins. It's like as you are eating more fruits and vegetables, whole foods, brightly colored things, omega-3 fatty acid rich foods, you're also dialing up your body's own ability to deal with the natural burden of toxins that is going on and the unnatural burden of toxins. What you create from your own metabolic fire within you and the byproducts of breathing and moving and digesting food to what you encounter that maybe you're not going to change the fact that you get into a car or that you have paint in your home or that you go into a mechanic shop every day to work. So really focusing in on, I think, harkening back to one of the things you said earlier in the episode, Dr. Shippy, is what can you control? You can control what foods you're eating. You can. You may not want to, but you can. And you may not be able to change your job, but you can change your breakfast on your way to your job. I just had a client last week had a vasectomy reversal, and sperm morphology and progressive motility have been low, and is already doing all the medicine things they can do. But when we were dialing in on diet, it was like, well, we're eating kind of sugary cereal with milk on the way to work. Like, let's do better blood sugar balance. Let's get a fruit or vegetable in there. Like, we can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supplements and testing, but why do that before we do the really
Pick the
it's
laying.
like
Yeah. Bonnie logic. That's what we
right
need to do here. Second
right
grader
like
logic. Is she even
no
in second
she's
grade?
my
Is that what we're
kindergartner,
talking about?
but yeah, like why
Okay.
remodel the house if the foundation is cracked?
Oh my gosh. I have family members that tried to do that recently. Doug and Carol. They were like, we need a new floor in this room. And the flooring guy is like, the room is like has an S-shaped curve to it because your foundation is cracked. And they're like, well, we need a hardwood floor in here. And he's like, hardwood floors go in straight lines. This room is warped because you need a new foundation. They're like, well, we're not going to get one. And he's like, well, I stretched some carpet over this. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we can't do this. And they're talking about what a lazy bum this guy is. And I'm like, dude, he's right. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Family members trying. This is just, yes. Uh-huh. It's true. Didn't work.
Well, with that analogy, I really do, and the data that's coming forth on how do we create healthy sperm, we can create a new foundation really quickly. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about the 74-day process for sperm, right? They could very quickly repair the foundation by, reducing the toxins and throwing in the nutrients that help everything to work better. It's so exciting.
Okay, I want to, before we close this episode, can we just talk about some of like the trendy weird stuff that dudes are doing to try to make better sperm and whether or not this is like good or bad? Okay? Okay. Trendy thing number 1. You rate it like 1 to 10 on a scale of 10 being
With
like
10
this thing
being
is
the
great for
best.
you, 1 being like this is such a waste. Ice pack on your balls.
During the sauna or just in general?
Just daily ice packing, keeping your
Oh, I
nuts
would think that
cold.
would be a 1.
That'd be 1. It's not doing
That would
anything
be a
for
1.
you. Okay. What about in the sauna?
I'd say that's probably like a 5 or 6, but definitely don't do the sauna in that, when you're trying to conceive. That's a good prep, like in the 3, 6, 12 months beforehand to help you to detoxify, but definitely don't do sauna when you're trying to conceive.
Okay. Cold plunging. Yeah, good one.
Cold plunging before trying to conceive, great, but not
No major temperature
during that 3-month period. No extreme cold or heat.
No cold or heat, no big heat changes. Okay. HCG shots.
That would be a -10.
Okay.
I really think that we've done a disservice to men doing any kind of hormone treatment before they've completed their families. I think it's clear that any of these shots really disrupt
Wait,
this.
not HGH,
met-
HCG.
Yeah.
Oh, same. Okay. Because that's I hear people saying this is really supportive. Like will
No,
help you have good
to
sperm if you're on
me,
HRT.
our systems are so finely attuned, feedback loops. And I am really hesitant with other than helping your body to be able to produce these hormone mediators better on their own. I think we don't know what the true implications are. Is this going to actually be positive or negative for the actual sperm? We don't know. So you might make more sperm, but it could be really setting up some other issues that we have no idea about. And what I see in my practice is that men can get better quality sperm by doing these other things and not have to bypass their, mother nature in their body.
Okay. So that brings me to my next one. Clomid. Clomiphene.
I also think that that's not a good idea. Like, I really believe in getting to the root cause of why the body isn't producing sperm or the quality of sperm that we want. And that we need to be doing, back to root cause and optimizing their bodies rather than trying to trick it.
All right. What's another one?
Is that surprising? Is that surprising to
I don't
you?
know. Like I've had people in various situations, not surprising given the kind of medicine you practice and all that. No, not at all. But just, given every guy wants to not every guy, but a lot of guys are like, let me just listen to the, oh my God, I'm blanking on that guy, Huberman Lab. What's he say? And then we'll just do whatever that is because that's going to help me.
So because of what I've seen happen in my own body and my patients' bodies, I believe our bodies have an innate ability to heal. And that when we help tap into that innate ability, you can have healthy babies well into your 40s and probably longer for men. But
a 40-year-old nutsack got me pregnant with this baby I've got right here. Some 40-year-old testicles got me pregnant here.
I think this aging conversation is more exactly what you guys were talking about as well. Like, it's the body's deteriorating rather than staying strong and healthy. And but we can get the body to be strong and healthy again by helping it to rebuild. These are great questions. Thank you for the questions.
I don't know that this is weird, but it's trendy.
What other weird things are guys up to? But all right.
One piece I think is obesity. Like you are bound to see lower levels of circulating testosterone with a higher BMI man. And so what are we thinking about
estrogen, exactly.
a GLP-1 for a man and supporting weight loss in a major preconception window?
I think that GLP-1s can be used in a lot of different situations very safely, but it's really important to use them safely because when people are losing fat, they're also losing muscle a lot of times if they're not doing the things to build muscle. So I believe in using the lowest dose of the GLP-1 that moves the needle forward, and that man or woman taking it actually needs to be eating at least a gram of protein per pound of body weight, what their lean body weight would be. So that's at least usually 100 grams of protein a day, and then taking supplements that actually help to fortify the muscle synthesis process. So I really like creatine and carnitine and all the mitochondrial support, along with a newer supplement that I've been using called Myos. It's a fortitropin. It's been one of the best things that I've seen people build muscle with. So the way that I have patients track whether they're doing enough to not actually end up in worse situation metabolically than where they started is to do a DEXA scan at least every 3 to 4 months, so we can look and make sure that they're actually building muscle and not losing it.
Mhm.
So, and that actually goes along with fertility too for men, right? When men have better muscle mass, they make more testosterone and they're more fertile. So, you know, a lot of times people get in such a hurry, right? They want to they've been fed this story that they're getting too old to have babies, and so they get into this fear place and they try to do everything really quickly. That's why I love this patient that was 47, because anybody else would have been like, I'm just gonna keep trying, but she gave me the
Yeah,
3
I'm
months.
gonna
I think
buy some
when you
eggs
zoom out though and
so
you're
I can do
looking at
this.
it, us three and potentially these people, but often not, we've seen the stories where people have just tried to shove it through, right? Like, I'll do anything. You honestly, Dr. Ann, you were about ready to do this, not knowing any better. You were prepping for IVF. And it's like, I'll do anything to
Yeah,
give
you're
this
gonna do
baby
IVF
a
because
sibling. We understand this. All three of us have struggled with different infertility issues. You will do anything. And many of these people are
yeah,
talking to individuals that are the most educated in the room when it comes to fertility, saying your next step is IUI, your next step is IVF, and essentially trying to kind of shove the process along. And I would say there's an even greater pull to it now than when your doctor was recommending it, Dr. Shippy, because it was so new back then. Hey, friends, we're taking a break from our episode to talk about one of our sponsors. And this sponsor is the PCOS app. Did you know that I made an app all about PCOS? Well, I did, and you can find so many resources in it. We have slowly moved all the resources from my PCOS Hormone Academy course over into the PCOS app, and that talks about all things PCOS topically. Like if you have acne, you can go look at the skin and acne modules and see, what does Western medicine offer? Why does this impact PCOS? What can we do about it? What are natural remedies? What are nutritional remedies? We talk about hair loss and hirsutism all through that lens, where we go through, what is it? Why is it impacted by PCOS? Or why do we need to pay more attention to this particular thing? And what can we do about it? And we provide a vast resource to help you both advocate for yourself at the doctor's office and treat yourself at home naturally. Now, the exciting thing that I want to share with you is, starting in January 2025, we're starting to migrate all of the content that I have published so far on fertility into this app. I used to sell a course for $700 all about how to get pregnant with PCOS, and that is all getting moved into the app between January and March. So you can take the course as if you enrolled in the whole thing for $10 per month. So head to your app store, whether you're on a Google Android device or an Apple device. If you type in PCOS app, you just look for that really pretty lavender flower, you'll find it. Download it and join us, because you're going to get weekly recipes and all the fertility focused PCOS content that you need. It will start being uploaded under the Academy tab. So stay tuned for that. And let's get back to our episode.
Yeah, and there's a couple of big books coming out, one in January and one in April, by a reproductive endocrinologist, and it just keeps putting that narrative about IVF being and using these methods as being normal.
Right.
And so
And
it hurts my heart just knowing that the body's getting pushed in a way that it's opposed to, right? It's saying, I'm not ready for a baby right now. The only times that I think that it makes sense to do IVF is if the blocked tubes can't be repaired or opened, or if there's some genetic issues that we're trying to avoid, like if both parents are cystic fibrosis carriers, so there's a recessive gene issue, or an autosomal dominant, like Huntington's disease where you get one gene. And so those situations that totally make sense to me. I can't think of any others that we wouldn't want to help the couple to get as healthy as possible to create the healthiest possible baby, because there's nothing more, I mean, it's devastating to not be able to have a child, but to have a child that has these health implications is so hard. I mean,
I
that's
think the time factor that we were just speaking of, what we have seen is you think it's the faster route. You think IVF is faster, but then it doesn't work and you do your second round or your fourth round, or we've seen patients come to us after like their eighth round and you're like, how did anybody ever ethically even recommend this to you?
But they're in
And
for a
if
penny,
we
they're in for a pound. If they turn back now and say this is the wrong road, then they spent $100,000 on the wrong. They spent 10 years on the wrong.
or they don't even
They can't face
know,
it.
well, pull that out of it. They don't even know that there's an alternative sometimes.
yeah. So
It's
that's,
like,
I mean, that was one of my early, like I had that patient that I mentioned that came to me at 41, so wiser than I was at the point. And because we definitely found some things she needed to address to have a healthy baby. And then I had a patient a couple years later who had been turned away from doing additional IVF. She'd already tried it a couple times. She was mid 30s, and she didn't have another option. And she'd heard about me and, was like, okay, see if you can help me figure this out. And like 9 months later, she was pregnant. And then she actually got pregnant with twins while she was still nursing. She got so fertile because we tuned her up postpartum too. Like that's the other thing that I love to do is this process really helps women to get tuned up to have their next baby. And then she went on to have a fourth. So she was turned away from IVF. They wouldn't do it again on her. They were like, you're throwing your money away. And I think sometimes they do turn people away because they don't want the reputation of failing, right?
Yeah, that does
And
happen.
then
their clinic rates.
yeah. And so here she's got four children now when she was told she was out of luck. So I can't say we can always turn it around, but I just so believe in the human body. Like we are born to create, to, perpetuate the species. Like that's,
Yes. Yes.
too. I think that's a lot of what.
So believe that too. Like there's so much hope for us. There's so much hope for us. There's so much hope for you. So much healing to be had, so much vibrance to enjoy, a family. Like there's so much hope. Yeah, I think that's what just really keeps me going in so many of this weirdness that goes on in this industry, in this world, and politically and everything like that. Is I think there's so much hope. And I think so many people really choose not to live up to that, their potential and what's possible for them. And that's where just so much anxiety and depression and frustration in our world comes from. And but there's just, there's this, bodies are made, we're made to do this. This is so possible.
On the longevity side of things, so I've had these run-ins with my body. I didn't even tell you about the worst one where a few years later I had ALS-like symptoms. So like I know for sure that our bodies can heal from really hard things. And then I've got my mom is 94, and then she just went through a little crisis when my dear stepdad died. So, her 88-year-old aunt, my 88-year-old aunt hopped on a plane and came to be with her for a couple of weeks. And my 80-year-old aunt came and they tag teamed it. So even into their 80s and 90s, their life force is strong.
Showing up in their family, taking care of people, enjoying the people that they
that's
love.
what I want.
I was just thinking that too. Caitlin and I had that
Lord,
conversation.
let it be.
Recently. Yes, that's what I want. I don't want to slowly fall into disuse where getting on an airplane to visit someone is just so out of my little routine of drink a coffee and read the paper that I can't possibly fathom it. Like I don't, that's the life I'm working toward, man. Golden Girls life.
So I really feel like these things that we work on to improve the health of our children, this preconception period, to work on infertility if that shows up, the things that we're doing are going to actually perpetuate us to better longevity, health longevity, where we are, the things that we learn to do to keep our bodies strong and resilient are going to just really change the trajectory of our whole lives and the health of our children.
Well, this is very exciting. Is there anything else you want to tell us about this book that's coming out soon, The Preconception Revolution?
Well, I really hope that it's going to change this conversation around fertility and make us more hopeful about the health of this incoming generation of children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just ask people listening to share this podcast with people that they know could benefit from it, and go take a look at the book, The Preconception Revolution. Get it for your friends that need this information, and let's really start a different conversation around conception. Let's really see this next generation of kids coming in much more vibrant and healthy.
You heard it here from the MD turned functional medicine provider. I would love to thank you for your time and the opportunity to get an advanced copy of your book to read. It's very awesome flipping through this PDF. I will say we get pitched a lot of publicity kind of prep campaigns for books coming out, and we get to view behind the scenes, and very often it's obvious who has hired a ghostwriter and who has lived and breathed this for the last couple decades in your case. And it's refreshing to read a book that I know you wrote and has your expertise in it, and isn't just like the proverbial, this will be a good book, let's get a science editor behind ghostwriting this and then throw Dr. Shippy's name on it. So thanks for putting so much into this.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry, because it really, it's taken a lot of life force to put this all together. And I have had help. Like, I'm not a great writer. I had people like doing amazing editing for me, and like thinking about how to organize the thoughts so that the book would really flow. So, but it means so much that you could see
it doesn't
the effort
read
that went into it.
Like an amateur writer. Like, I can tell that. And that's not what I mean. I mean, like, when there's a
There's
provider
a heart
who's
behind
like
it. There's a
there
real
is,
person.
But when you've had a provider like describe, for instance, how a menstrual cycle works and what a luteal phase is. Like, this is what Sophia sings all day long, luteal phase defects. Or like, I've explained insulin resistance with 100 different like illustrations to try and have it make sense to the person in front of you. Like, when you have that backlog of how you've described things over and over and over again, and then you go to say, like, which one's going to hit the hardest in this book, you can tell. Like, you can just tell. It's not like somebody's just like, yep, and then the taxi driver drove up and that's insulin resistance. You're like, what? That just doesn't even make sense. All right. Well, I hope you loved this episode. Hang out with us more at Food Freedom Fertility. You can do that by subscribing so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.